for me on the internet, trying to find this live. And we are going to have an awesome chat about being showgirl shamans or a burlesque priestess. There she is. Kellita is here. She's here. So we are so excited to bring something new to you. Kellita!
Hello! I'm so happy to be here.
Hi! I know you found me. Oh, it's so good to see your face.
Ditto. Ditto.
We have some cool people who are tuning in, including one of the guys who worked security for me at one of the burlesque venues here, who helped keep all the divine feminine safe. So thank you for that.
Beautiful role. Thank you.
So how are you?
Oh, it's just been a day with lots of feelings.
Oh, yeah.
Feeling full day. Yeah.
I hear that. This is the time.
This is the time.
So,
truly true. Truly true. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, gosh, those days full of feelings, it makes me just like, those are the kind of days where I fall into all the feelings in myself. And like, sometimes those feelings.
Oh, wait.
On. But I really fall into those feelings while I'm on stage doing burlesque. Do you ever feel that?
Yes. Yes, and I find I think it's because there's someone. I think it's because the container, literally, of consciously using every bit of my physical body to be illuminated with my soul and spirit, that there's room. I'm more set up to hold and let the feelings move through than my normal go through life, work at the computer, walk around the apartment. I've been doing a lot of walking around the apartment. So there's something about the container of, oh, I've got the song and I have this clear space where it's absolutely clear. That helps, that is different than moment. And that's that thing that I long for, and use the act as the gym, as the gym, and then that it feels more and more natural or okay, or just less. I think why the feeling is so strong is because I'm not letting it just fully happen. Yeah. Yeah. Like, oh no, gotta write this email. So
shove it into a box.
Or a little bit out, but yeah.
Well, can we backtrack a little bit? Because I know people on here, we just jumped right into it. So will you tell me and the people who are watching a little bit about yourself, like what turns you on, what you do, how we know each other.
Yeah. Well, what turns me on is both experiencing myself and witnessing other people come to life, like literally watching them. I know it might seem too obvious, but shedding layers of not them. I can't get enough of that. And I forgot the other questions.
Oh, yeah, maybe a little bit about you, like what you do, where you're from, a little bit about your story.
So I've been here in San Francisco for 25 years now. So I think it's pretty much home for now. And I've been practicing burlesque. I didn't know it in so many words, but I've been practicing burlesque as a spiritual practice for 20 years. So The first 10, I split my time between my own solo work and then working a lot with troupe dance. Hot Pink Feathers took a great deal of my attention, and a lot of my love funneled through working with a troupe, which would sometimes expand very large for events in San Francisco. And then really briefly, I got really sick 10 years ago, and I came out of the closet as a well, the term that came up with Showgirl Shaman. Yeah. And I don't know where that term came from. I can't remember, but it came up about 10 years ago. And I began to articulate, and I've spent the last decade articulating more and more about what I recognize is happening. Like, I was using the movements. I'll just go ahead and say it. The divine feminine came to me in the form of, I call her the awakening showgirl herself. And she sat me down. It was very easy to sit me down because I was pretty much only lying down at that point while I was healing. And she said, well, loved one, you've been doing beautiful work, and now it's time to actually talk about it more. And now it's time for you to, just to not hide. We kind of started with the feelings not hiding. I think this, like, my whole lifetime is another layer of not hiding, of allowing this full, crazy, brilliant light that each and every one of us is. Whatever you're doing, whatever your job is, whatever your art form or not art form, we are stardust in human form. And it's just about, yes. And one of my favorite ways to realize that in my own body and to facilitate and catalyze other people, and I know this is true for you too, is to catalyze that in other people, for them to have an embodied, visceral sense of, oh my God, this is, even as I talk about it, I feel my arms and my torso and my legs and my feet in a different way. There's an aliveness, and creating a burlesque solo is it's probably my favorite way. Yeah, favorite way to exercise that that becoming and awakening process. It makes it so possible, so concretely possible. That's what I love, because I can get very lost in the treetops of vision and concept. I'm a highly sensitive person, and I don't ever, you don't see here, my hand is waving up above my head. I live here. I'm never going to lose this vast meta tracking of patterns, and but I really, even you shared, I don't have many memes, but one I have, and I posted again and again, is that something I don't even remember, I'm not going to quote myself right, that the body piece of people imagine, I'm a dancer, it must be really my body. No, I'm doing it so I can come into my body. If I was already in my body, I'd do something else. Yeah, please.
Exactly. Yeah, it is. It's like we dance to get into our bodies and understand what it is to be a human in this body, rather than already being embodied and then being a dancer. Like,
yes.
the movement, the burlesque, the dancing is the process of taking all the stardust that we are and then putting it into our human form, which is then like understood through the movement and the disrobing.
Yes. Yes.
Unveiling.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Beautifully said. And the transmission, I mean, it's wonderful to talk about. And I love that more and more, finding more words and frames to speak about it, and to speak about the extent of what's happening. Like the psychological transformation that's possible, the spiritual transformation, which, you could say they're the same thing. They're slightly different. And I think they're super complementary.
Right, because the mind and the spirit talk, but the mind gets like coagulated in ego, and then the spirit, I don't know, kind of gets pushed aside in a way. So,
It
yeah.
it makes me think of sometimes, especially I think for sensitive folks, the the way, the intergenerational trauma, just, whatever, even if you're in your own lifetime from your birth on, you can't track obviously a bunch of trauma. We all have trauma upline. We
Mm-hmm.
all have trauma upline that come upline. I mean, the mothers, fathers, and then before, and we carry it in ways we might not recognize. And I want to say this in a reined in way. I think sometimes the response, because it could go so big, sometimes our response is to almost just kind of turn the page and try
Or
to,
like,
to throw ourselves into maybe a spiritual practice without actually individuating first,
hmm.
without doing the what it's not it's actually it's most often when someone doesn't know burlesque, it's not that fun. It's not that fun healing insecure attachment. It's hard work. So sometimes just moving towards, I'm just going to meditate, or I'm just going to do this spiritual practice, it ends up often being spiritual bypassing. If someone isn't
Mm-hmm.
also doing the psychological development and healing the intergenerational trauma and the developmental trauma, I just see it being
Wait,
the richest when those things, when someone's paying attention to that journey. Yeah,
totally. Will
yeah,
you, in your own words, define spiritual bypassing for me?
yes. Um, Going to
Yeah.
that place of we are all one without without actually finding out who this one is first.
Mm-hmm.
And not that that's a fixed thing. Oh, now I'm done figuring out who I am. But there is a level of I'll use it, it's a boring psychological term, but of individuating that's necessary, or otherwise we have too many blind spots.
Mm-hmm.
We have too many blind spots around privilege, around we can still be living somebody else's life out of the hope to send love to our mothers or our fathers or whoever it is. I'm not finding a better way to say it right now, but it's
Mm-hmm.
prematurely reaching for the we are all one before I know, actually, here, I can concretize it. Yay. Before I actually know what I need.
Ooh.
It's moving out of the people pleasing place. For
Mm-hmm.
if I'm still trying to source I think I'm finding a good road in, and it's one I haven't found recently. Aha! If I'm still trying to find my own sense of self or validation through this through a kind of acceptance from other people, through giving them what they want. If
Mm-hmm.
that is the pillar, if that's what I'm trying to make the pillar in me, I'm not formed enough to then, like, the true we are all one comes when each one is a one. So in our culture, we look
Mm-hmm.
at, we over revere independence. I know that. And that's why some of us try to move into the we are all one place a little prematurely, because independence is so gross when it's done in this capitalist, really separate way. But there is becoming a singularity. Then when we are all these unique singularities, it's almost like, I'll make the metaphor of a burlesque show. When you have all of
Mm-hmm.
these individually sourced acts with the stamp of each person, and then we come together to witness each other in that and celebrate each other in that. And maybe this is too boring a metaphor. The other, to
Mm-mm.
extend the metaphor, is if each person's act had been given to them by someone else. Someone else
Or they were just
choreographed it,
regurgitating.
regurgitating, exactly. And then we'd have okay. Yeah, I mean, it's this, where am I? Why this is such a big question for me is because I can feel someone else's experience so easily, and I I make it a practice to actually separate out, wait a minute, is that what I think and feel? Or is that what my best friend or my lover or my
Mm-hmm.
mother thinks and feels? Like, this is why I actually just talk about, like, what is my own physical experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's easiest to come from that place, and then as we know, like, oh yeah, i'm having I'm having a neck ache, or I'm having tingles in my toes, starting for that very basic sense oriented. That's the place from which I start. An
Right.
act creation is,
It's the
what are my
listening.
senses? Listen.
Mm-hmm.
What's my
Like it's this
information?
somatic listening that I think that like we talk about spiritual bypassing, right? I feel like that would almost be physical bypassing where we don't actually listen to like what we feel and what turns us on, because when we
Yes.
listen to the turn on, that shows us the another road as you're speaking. And like
Yes.
in your book, by the way, Kellita wrote a book all about creating a burlesque act from this lens, from the spiritual practice that we're talking about today. And something I love about it is that you bring the body in and you bring this listening in first. And I know that you have three words. What are those three
There are
main?
these three R words. One is revel, the second is
Revel.
reveal, and third is receive. So we've been
Mm,
talking about reveling in the body, which is like, what is it? Oh my gosh. What will bring me more pleasure and aliveness? But you have to just start from, what do I feel right now? Like, if you have a stomach ache, you have to start with that. Oh yeah, I have a stomach ache and I'd like to feel like I have an expansive, alive belly, or whatever it is. Or I feel like, ooh, my chest is collapsing. Thank you.
is it
Look at that.
backwards? It's backwards.
But it's wonderful. But it's wonderful. Yeah, revel in your body. Starting there. Starting there.
And I love that you use the word revel too, because it's not just like we talk about listening and feeling or like this bypassing thing, but the revel, like when you revel in something, you really steep in it and you listen and you feel all of the aspects of it like in your very bones and your gut. Oh, I'm getting shivers thinking about it. But like
Yeah.
you revel at the stars. You don't just look at the stars. You don't just
Yes.
watch them.
Yes. Yeah. And
Hmm.
and whatever they're feeling, I mean, and it's having all of them, whether it's a challenging sensation or a really delicious sensation. It's just having it.
Hmm.
Having it. Yeah.
I think, and not judging it too. We like put them
Yes.
into good feelings or bad feelings because
Oh,
we've
thank
been
you. Yeah, yeah. No,
taught
thank you
that.
for busting that open. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Like feeling the pain of a thing, like when we feel that more and more, then that becomes our power and the pain transmutes into something else. And if we don't
Yes.
label it, then you're not
Yes.
scared of it.
And speaking of it going into something else, um, having having a sense of our choice of what is it that we'd like to feel, and
Hmm.
naming that, and really clearly, like, okay, here's my landscape right now. I'm feeling XYZ, and I'm choosing to have my next station of feelings be this
Hmm.
cluster, whatever it is, mischief, joy, and gratitude, or
Ooh,
joy, yeah, um, whatever it
right.
is, yeah.
Yeah, pick it, be it. I mean, and that feels to me kind of like law of attraction, with a dance practice that I really love called the Five Rhythms. Do you know Gabrielle Roth and the
I
Five
do,
Rhythms?
I do, yeah.
And so in her book, Maps to Ecstasy, she really goes into how you have to feel the feeling fully and you have to dance that feeling fully before you can transmute it into your next cluster that you want to
Yes,
feel. Because if
yes,
you just put it in a bottle for later, it's going to erupt and that's
yes,
going to be.
yes. So that also is a way to, um, yeah, avoid a bypassing that way. So have it. And
Mm.
another way I would say is also to not resist it. It's just another angle, another linguistic angle to look. The more we drop our, it's the resisting of what we're feeling that that calcifies it or has it stick its feet deeper in the mud and almost yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Okay, so what in the lens of burlesque and like
yeah.
act creation or just like movement, sensual pleasure, what are your favorite ways to not resist a feeling in practice
Ooh,
or to like dive into it?
it's funny because I'm being torn between this where where I am and the what I'm getting lost in the states right now.
Well, maybe they're not so different.
My favorite way to not resist it. Oh, well, breathing.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And experience and shimmying and shaking.
Mm.
Really, really great at yeah. I can't do it while I'm holding the phone, but thank you for doing it on behalf. I could do it with my hand. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a good way to shake.
Yeah.
Shimmy the head.
And also
Yeah.
extending out, bringing all the way out through the tips of the fingers and to the
Mm,
tips of the toes. Um, mhm.
mm. Right. And
I
I
think
feel
those
like
are favorite ways.
right? I feel like the breathing grounds us in our body and that wind in the belly like moves and like pulls the chi or the life force through so we feel it.
Yeah.
And I feel
Yeah.
like the shaking dislodges but also kind of invites and creates
Yeah.
space. Um,
Yes.
and then that extension makes you like feel all your edges, right? So it's
Yes. Yes. And keeping the mouth slightly open. So even if this makes me like right during an act. So even if we're not doing conscious breaths, like breathing in and out each second, just to keep the mouth open so that the our breathing is more connected to
mhm.
ourselves, connected to who's witnessing us. Yeah,
And I feel like that also helps to unclench the jaw, which then also
absolutely.
helps to relax the hips, where, sometimes all of our emotions get stored in. These are my hip joints right now.
Yeah,
Ball and socket.
yeah, yeah,
Um, because we have these like related places, our jaws related to our hip sockets, whereas like our throat is related to our pussy. So
yep,
we have these places that
yes,
when we work on one, it opens another.
yes. Oh, what a rich this whole part. This whole part is
Mhm.
just the pelvis of the face, is it not?
Right? And we paint our lips red to bring attention and to what do they say? Like mimic sexual stimulation, don't they?
Yes, the color. That's right.
Hmm. Tee as we both have red lips
I
here.
know. That's why I was
What's
trying to
that?
highlight there. Oh my goodness. Oh my
Ah,
goodness.
um, can we circle back to these three R's?
Oh my gosh. Always. I mean, they are. You could just never stop circling back. Yeah. So
I
yeah.
know. I mean, I think so. Kellita let me read her book in advance before it even went into
Yeah.
publishing, which I'm so honored
Oh my
for.
gosh.
Like,
I'm
I
so happy.
remember when I first met you and you messaged me out of the blue to come give you a veil lesson
Yeah.
in San
So good.
Francisco.
So
And then I
good.
like dove down the rabbit hole of you and it is like you're so inspirational. You've been doing this for so long. You have such wisdom, and I
Oh.
really appreciate everything you do.
Oh, Gia.
And so like oh this and so like this map to me just like really kind of hones in on this. It's almost like it could be a mantra
It is
or
kind
like
of
a
a mantra.
meditation
Yeah.
that can be elongated through a whole like 3 month long act, 3 year long act creation phase.
Yes. Frankly,
you know,
yes. Yes.
or like a 10-minute conversation.
Either one. Either one. And
Mm.
work. Yeah, so I guess we talked more about the reveling in the body.
We
So that
touched on it.
we touched on it. We touched on it. Revealing your radiant essence is the second phase. And
Yeah.
I mean, I think well, the key is on all three. I was going to say the key is on essence. No, it's on radiance. No, it's but and this here, and I just stand by this. There is no one without a radiant essence. I
Mm.
don't care what you've been through. I don't care what is going on with your body or your finances or your movement ability. This is it's there. It's there, and it actually takes an incredible amount of energy to cloak it. And what we spend most of our
Hmm.
energy, we humans spend most of our energy cloaking out of and this is just on the big broad strokes, out of either safety, a concern for safety on some level, or a concern around belonging. Those are the only two categories. There's an issue
Mm-hmm.
of safety or belonging. And as we have literally a physical instance in which little amounts of our radiant essence is seen by another person. This is why the container of a performance is so powerful. If we're making sure not to be performing in a way of I'm giving you what you want. If the performance, I really want another verb there, haven't found one. But if the performance is just a conscious enactment of this is me, and that radiant essence gets seen by someone, and their reflection back to us is that's amazing, give me more.
Mm-hmm.
Then we can take
That's
it in, and
amazing.
it actually revises some of this our programming on all of it on an unconscious level, either around safety or belonging, and it lets us know, all the parts of us, all the different brains that we have, including our whole body. It lets us know it's safe to be us. This can't
Mm.
happen in one fell swoop. In fact, the more change, and when I say change, it just means different experience for being alive. The more change that any individual human needs, the smaller the increments they can actually accept it in. So if there's a whole bunch of change, if we're really, really cloaked, we need to
Mm-hmm.
do it more incrementally, little bit and little bit and little bit.
Right,
Otherwise,
because
it's too
otherwise it's gonna,
upsetting.
yeah, feel traumatic and
Yeah,
upsetting, and then you're just gonna go right back where you were and
yeah,
cloak again.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because
So,
it's more important to humans to uh, just for their identity to feel constant, even if it's a painful identity.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, so that's why it's lovely to do just little at a time and a little at a time. But the cumulativeness is very, 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 very real. Like, oh, I just often want to go back 10 years, 15, 20, and just sit down with me then and go, honey, look. It's beautiful
So
what you're doing.
it's
It's working.
wonderful.
It's working.
Working.
It's
You
working.
know, you saying all of this makes me think, and like going back to talk to my past self, makes me think of the very first few burlesque acts that I made and the first few performance
Ooh.
acts I made, you know, and
Yeah.
how much a different place I was in my uncloaking process
Yeah.
versus where I'm at today
What
versus
would
where
you
I'm going to
say?
be
What
in
would you
five
say?
years
What would you
to
say to
my
her?
to my
To
past.
yeah.
Oh, to past to
Yeah.
baby Gia.
Baby Gia. Yeah. Because you can tell her now.
I can tell her now. What would
You
I
can
say
tell
to
her now.
her? I think I would tell her to trust the pussy magic that I feel or that she
Mm,
feels.
mm,
Because I don't think I trusted it.
yeah.
And I think I trusted more like what my ex-husband would say to me or what,
Yeah.
the normal humans would. would put
Yeah.
me down as. And I
Yeah.
think, yeah, I feel like that trust in myself, that just as you said, like with each performance, you corroborate that that authenticity of self as you reach into it more and more, and that
Yeah.
trust is built slowly. And I think the more that we as humans can encourage each other to trust with that witness, with that mirroring, with those
Yes.
eyes, and just almost being hungry, as you said earlier, being hungry and loving to pieces, watching other people unveil themselves bit by bit. It
Yes.
is, oh, I'm getting full body chills.
Yes. And I want to talk about, yeah, Bebe, continue, the right and the left brain, because one thing, we are such a left shifted culture, taught to analyze and categorize and um, to look at, frankly, when we're using the left brain primarily, we can't even see other humans as humans. They're functions. The left brain can't
Huh.
recognize a human because a human is a holism. And the left brain, we never get to experience pure left brain. There's always both present. But when we shift left, which is also what's happening incredibly strongly most of the time, but especially now with what we see on a whole groups of people level, with politics and everything, really, really strongly left shifted, can only see humans as objects and as
Hmm.
functions. And so the practice of seeing another human more from the right brain comes from, like, backing up to reveling again. It's noticing what's happening, and then back to the body again, of course. What happens in my body when I'm witnessing you?
Mm-hmm.
And I know I will always
Right.
simultaneously have a lot of thoughts, and we love our analytical, we need our analytical categorizing mind. It's very helpful, but it's not set to run the show.
Mm-mm.
It's set
Which is
to
why we
be,
have two hemispheres.
yes, it's set to be a support, a support. And so I, a lot of what I spend my time working with people in act creation is to help them see someone else more from their right brain, to see them as a miracle, and
Mm,
to yeah. So that, because that is also how they will begin to see themselves as a
right.
miracle. Really
And
helps
so,
this. Yeah.
right, and then I think that that then touches on this last
Yeah,
R,
you're so good. You're so good.
right? It like allows us to receive the presence, to be in the present
Yes.
moment, and to
Yes.
receive this miracle essence of the other people
Yes.
around us, which then, like, if we truly believe that we're mirrors of each other, or maybe
Yep.
even fractionally believe it,
Yes.
we then receive ourselves a little bit more.
Absolutely. I couldn't say it any
Mm,
better than you just did. Yeah.
mm. Well, we have the same brain and we're all
I
one.
know.
So.
Well, it's true. We did just, would say here in this conversation, our brains have gone, yeah, yeah. That's what's so fun. Yeah. That's what's so fun. Oh
Uh-huh.
my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Mm. So, right, take a breath into all that.
Yeah. Does anyone
So,
have a question? Does anyone have a
yeah,
question?
does anyone have a question here? I haven't seen any come through. Most people,
No?
do you
Okay.
know the Miranda Blaze? Miranda Blaze
Yay.
keeps sending us kisses.
Oh,
Thanks,
thank you for
Miranda.
the kisses. So appreciated.
um,
Hello. Hello.
so yeah, if you do have a question and you're watching, feel free to reach out or holler either at myself or Kellita here, and I know that we'll be more than happy. We, as we've stated already, love helping humans to uncover their essence. To it is this.
Yeah.
It's for me. It feels less like like there's a lot of individuating that happens, but oh, Miranda sends more kisses.
I know. Receiving them. Tell more about. I want to hear what you're saying. Yeah.
So right? And like there's this process of individuating, which I think is a lot of the like the personal art practice, the creation, the understanding oneself with burlesque. And I feel how when or like I feel that when we help others in this journey, either through mentorship, I love you too, Kiki, um, through mentorship or group classes or private lessons or even just conversations like this, right? This unveiling and letting others understand like this knowledge that we have in our brains, which is not ours, right? It's meant to be
Right.
shared. Like
Yep.
that brings us into this collective, like we are one mind and like plays has this interplay between like self and other and merging the two in this way that I think I truly feel most either in a class
Yeah.
setting
Yeah.
or on stage, giving a performance to an
Ditto.
audience.
Ditto.
And it
Ditto.
is right. And like I just see these juicy parallels right now with teaching others to do that on stage
Yeah.
because that is such a formative practice for me
Yeah.
and to be able to give that gift to someone else.
Yeah.
Um, mm. and so something else I wanted to ask you
Uh-huh.
was like kind of within that context, is why did you choose to write a book about all of this?
Oh my
Because you've been
gosh.
you've been teaching for what, over a decade, over 2 decades?
I've been I've been teaching solo creation specifically for a decade. The
Mm-hmm.
previous decade, I was much more focused on um, troupe dance,
Yeah.
as far like my own solos, but I wasn't. It wasn't a major element for me of guiding the process for someone else to create their own. I was teaching them my own movement vocabulary, which I had a lot of fun with, and it was very important for me to like hone that into a whole movement vocabulary. And it happened to
Mm-hmm.
be fun for other people to learn, and that was great. But now what really turns me on is helping someone find their own language. And so, and what brought that? What brought me to that place? I think it was the natural progression of me. I had to get filled up enough. I had to feed myself enough, literally. And then I fed myself with my own experience of myself. I reveled enough. I revealed enough. I received
Mm-hmm.
enough that I then realized I had that it was the generosity came naturally because I don't know. I mean, I wanted more of it in the world, and I had. It's not that I couldn't have any more with myself, but somehow it was a natural spilling out to this. Because I remember times when I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to do this. It took a long time for me to shift. I think what it is that this oneness piece dropped in authentically. Like
Mm-hmm.
I want to say this in a more concrete way, but I've never tried to answer exactly this question out loud. So thank you for asking it. Um, hmm. Just the capacity was genuinely there. This
Mm-hmm.
isn't a capacity I could have faked or done out of any like, oh, I think it's a good idea now. It
Right.
it just came like it was the next step that was obvious. And
Mm-hmm.
I take great pleasure in it. So, there's a yeah, it does feel like even though I know that's another person, clearly that's another person with another body and another history, but I feel their I'm absolutely receiving from them reveling and revealing. There's no
Mm-hmm.
doubt. It's direct. It's as delicious
Right.
as me doing it. It
Mm-hmm.
is, which is so crazy. But that
So,
wasn't immediately true. That wasn't true at the beginning. It took me time to
right.
get there. Yeah.
This word compersion keeps coming up.
Ooh.
It's, and so it's thrown around in poly circles a lot, but it's like
Okay.
the feeling happy when you see others feeling happy, right? It's like
Yes. Yes.
empathy, but on a different level.
I love that. Yeah. And I've
Yeah.
only heard that as the opposite. And when someone said like the seven deadly sins and what the opposite is it sort of is it something like the opposite of jealousy or something like
It,
that?
it would be the opposite of
Yeah.
jealousy.
If
Yeah.
you were
Like when
looking, I
you,
think, yeah.
Mhm. And so in
Oh, I
that,
love
right?
that. I love that. I want to start using that word.
Yeah, it's a good word, and
Compersion. Okay.
compersion. Yeah.
Huh.
But it's this feeling. So my friend also says, my friend Michaela, and my friend Sophia talk about filling oneself up and like knowing how
Yeah.
you have to fill yourself up. But in order to give to other people and to, like with you writing this book, getting other
Yeah.
people to find their own movement vocabularies and
Yeah.
their own authentic ways of doing burlesque solos, right? It takes it
Yeah.
out of this competition and it
Yeah.
brings it into this way of like, you have filled yourself up so full that you're spilling over your edges and you're like
Yes.
going out into your cup
Yes.
saucer and it's spilling out of that.
Yeah.
And it is just so easy then at that point to like continue to fill and
Yeah.
and give and receive.
I absolutely, and I think that I didn't follow through with answering your previous questions of why a book, and I
Oh,
think that
right.
yeah. So just to kind of loop around back to that, I know that some people would be too scared. Oh, did a loved one just come in the room?
Yeah.
Yeah, you saw that. That's beautiful. Um, and we might want to close soon because we could talk for hours, but we might want to talk again.
I know. I
We
would
might
like
want to
that a
talk
lot,
again.
actually.
But I did the book because some people would never feel okay about coming to a class or would
Mm,
never it will just make it accessible um, to some people who never would have. Yeah, and sadly
right.
some people I'll never meet, but I want this to reach beyond the amount of people that I can personally know and relate to.
Hmm.
It wants to, I mean the book is kind of it's a far reaching way. Yeah.
Through space and time, right?
Through space and
Because
time. That's right. Through space
because
and
they don't
time.
have to be like in your San Francisco region
No.
in order thusly to study with you or
Yeah.
to receive
Yeah.
what you're bringing through.
That's right.
Hmm. Yeah. Uh, so in the book, when does it land? What's
Oh,
the
yeah.
timeline for it?
Okay.
And what's it
Well,
called?
it's called How to Create a Burlesque Solo from the Inside Out.
Mm.
Um, it's on pre-order right now, and the actual like publishing, I think just a few more weeks. It's been through its last content edit. It needs a it's going to the copy editor tomorrow, and then
Woohoo!
it goes into the graphic designer who puts it into the things. So
Right,
yeah,
into like the book
yeah,
form.
into the book
Yeah.
form. Yeah, yeah,
Oh, that's so exciting.
yeah.
Mm, right.
It is. It is.
Well, oh my gosh, I think that we should
Oh,
definitely have another
let's
chat.
do have another one. And if someone kind of wants to, if these, if someone wants to dive in a way where they can see my face and engage in some of what we've been talking about, I'm doing an online workshop Monday, this coming
Oh,
Monday,
great.
um, from 5 to 8, not specific, but Pacific.
Specifically Pacific time.
Specifically Pacific. So Central it would be 7 to 10.
Cool.
And that and the pre-order of the book, someone can find in my single link via the single link on my IG page.
Sweet. So the link that
Yeah,
they can find in your
they
bio,
can find
but
the
they can probably also just like type your name into a search, Kellita the Showgirl Shaman, right?
probably. I don't know.
Probably, I would think so.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
but your bio link, awesome.
My
So
bio link has that. Yeah.
yeah, so you have a workshop on Monday. What's the workshop called?
It's called Being Seen on Your Own Terms.
Oof.
Burlesque as a psycho-spiritual practice.
Oof.
Oh, mama.
Yes.
Oh, mama.
That just seems so juicy, you know?
Good stuff.
Yeah.
And
Well,
and if you come to that workshop, you can be invited to the next Burlesque from the Inside Out show. We're keeping them kind of only for people who've taken at least that workshop. So it's a little more, so everyone knows the way we witness people.
hmm.
Um, and that show is on the 24th. So the following Saturday. So there's a bonus of
Oh, cool.
access to the show. Yeah,
Right. So you essentially get to like come understand the languaging and the way to support each other, and
exactly.
then you get to witness and practice it. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, well, thank you so much for chatting with me publicly today. You're so inspiring, and the languaging that you have around all of this and the time that you've put to formulate it into something for people to understand and take with them is just it's amazing, you know, and like as my baby burlesque teacher self like finds such joy in opening this, like I have such appreciation for you for doing it for so long and touching so many lives, including mine. So thank you.
Chia.
Mm,
Um, I mean, I felt your transmission from the very first time I saw you. I think it was on stage at the Burlesque Hall of Fame. I think that
hmm.
was the very first time. And then I got to meet you for our veil lesson.
Yeah.
And I just feel your transmission all, I feel it from Chicago to here. It's, it's powerful and palpable and beautiful. I'm so glad to call you my friend and colleague.
Very much so. And Pussy Magic Sister.
Pussy Magic Sister! Okay.
Well, if you are tuning in to near the end, I know that you can find this on my feed, and we'll figure out how to post it on Kellita's feed
Yeah.
so you can watch the whole convo and keep your eyes tuned for the next time that we have a conversation. So,
Yes. Thank you, everyone, for
thank you.
coming. Thank you. Thank you,
Hmm.
Gia.
Thank you so much, Kellita. We'll talk
All right.
soon.
Toodle.
Bye.
Toodaloo.
Bye.